Good morning and welcome to Learning with Friends. I am Pat Fairless from Fairless Stamp and Flair, and since today is the last Thursday of the month, um, I'm going to do a fun fold card. I've kind of started that a couple of months ago, that the last Thursday of each month I will do a fun fold. The one I'm going to do today is a window fun fold, and I learned this from my good friend Kathy on this. And it makes a really nice statement card, I think. So it's not too hard. I have pre-cut my cardstock because I think you can all figure out how to cut cardstock once you have the dimensions. So let's just go ahead and flip my camera down. Okay, like I said, this is a window card, fun fold. And I've actually already made 3 of these because I did need to practice a little bit. I'm going to show you one at this point just to kind of show you what it is. It starts out with what I would call a pinwheel card base. And if you can see the centerpiece in there, this pops out on a little mechanism that I think you can probably see down inside. So there's some die cutting. In this case, I did do some coloring. We're not going to color today. I'm just going to stamp the dies, and you can use any dies to create this window. They just need to be a die that will create layers in different sizes. Now, for this one in particular, I used the Everyday Details dies, and you can see them here. And I used this largest one to cut out my window. And in this case, I also used the inside of that die because that's what was left over once I cut the window for my pop-up center panel. Now, I'm going to use this same stamp set for the card I'm going to make today, but I'm going to use the deckled rectangle dies just to show you a different way, and then the other 2 cards I will show you at the end. I used different layering dies, so we have lots of options. You don't need to use what I used, use what you have. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I do have a tutorial for the card I'm going to make today. I haven't taken pictures yet because the card's not made, but I will add pictures and I will get this posted so that you can download this particular tutorial. It will give you all the cutting dimensions. And the way, just let me explain the tutorial first. So once you get to it, you can understand. The first page is specific to this particular card. So it gives you the name of the supplies that I used on the card we're going to make today and the dimensions based on that, and then the steps. But on pages 2 and 3 of the tutorial, this is actually the directions to make this fun fold, and it includes some templates here. I personally think templates are always very helpful to me to understand how to cut, how to score. So I broke the card down basically into 4 different sections. And if I just pull this back, the pinwheel card base is the first thing we're going to make, and that is this pinwheel that you can see here. Kind of looks like an X. That is the first part. A bendable window, what I'm calling the bendable window, is this element right here that I had die cut the window in. Then we have a mechanism which you can see down inside. I hope you can see it. It's kind of dark down in there, but you can see that little curved piece. That's a mechanism. So on this portion of the tutorial, it tells you how to make that. And again, there is a diagram for each of them. And then the pop-up panel is the last piece we do. And what I'm calling the pop-up panel is this center piece right here. Because when you bend this, it pops up. It will lay flat. Everything will lay flat for mailing. But when you go to stand it up, and it does stand up very nicely for display, This is the piece that pops up based on that little mechanism. So you don't have to write the dimensions down. It's probably a good idea not to go through the dimensions because sometimes I misspeak, but I will try to give you the dimensions based on my tutorial. So we need 4 pieces, and this is equivalent to 1 piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and it is just cut into 4 pieces that are 5.5 by 4.25. So you cut it into 4s. And then we are going to take this, and because this is 4.25 and we want it to bend in half, we are going to score at 2 1/8. Now, I am going to use my Simply Scored plate here. I like to use this. For me, this works best. You can certainly use your trimmer and score that way, but we are going to score each one of these at 2 1/8, and that will then create 4 equal panels. So I'm just going to quickly do that. Again, I'm not showing you how to cut this, but I think you can all figure out how to cut 4 pieces of 4.25 by 5.5 inch cardstock. So there are basically the base of what we need for our pinwheel. And we are going to fold these in half, and I will use my bone folder to give them a good burnish and a crease. I'm folding into the hill, so the hill is up. That's typically, whenever possible, that is how you want to fold. Actually, don't ask me why. I've done it both ways, and both ways work fine. But that's what the experts had taught me, so that's what I do. So now we have 4 of these, and these are going to go together like this, if you can imagine, to create our pinwheel, right? We're going to put these together like this, and this is the side that we'll be showing. So that's where we want to lay our Designer Series paper. Now I am using Wildly Flowering Designer Series paper, and these are cut. There's 8 of them, and they are cut at 5 3/8 by 2. So we just have a 1/16 inch all the way around. Now, if you have directional paper, you are going to want to make sure that you get the direction going in the right way. I will be honest, this paper I tried, it looks like it should have direction, but it kind of didn't seem like it mattered because it had branches going in all directions. I just cut my 5 3/8 and then started cutting them by 2 inches. So some of these, they were all out of the same piece of paper. So where they line up, I don't really know. I thought I kind of kept it straight, but I don't think it truly matters because this paper is so non-directional that we're just going to go ahead and start laying pieces on each of these, okay? So I am going to use liquid adhesive, and I take I have my little silicone mat here to try to keep as much glue as I can off from my work surface. And we are just going to lay this in the center where these fold inward, because that's what we're going to see. And I'm just going to try to create an equal border all the way around as best I can. Now, for me, I have much better lining things up straight if I work on the side. So that is what I'm going to do. And we're just going to put these down. So we got 8 of these to do. So give me a minute to get these down. I probably partially should have done some of them, because again, you really don't need to watch me glue things together, right? But I didn't, so we will do it now. And just, again, try to keep your edges around your borders as equal as you can. It's not going to show too much if you're a little off, because it's all in the front fold, and a lot of it's covered up by the bendable panel. So I wouldn't sweat it too much, is what I'm saying. Okay. And it's also why I'm not too concerned. As long as there's a strong directional pattern, then make sure you cut accordingly. But if there's not, it doesn't really matter, because so much of this is covered up anyway, so you will never know if you have things lined up or not. 2 more, 2 down, 2 more to go. And I am not a liquid glue person normally, but in this case, it felt like it worked better for me because I had a little bit of wiggle room. To move them around if I wanted. And my bendable panel is made with the back side of this, which does have more of a directionality to it. So there we will make sure we get it going in the right direction. Okay, one more piece. And here is our last one. And my fingers are already gluey. It's sticking to the bottle of the glue. So I'm going to have to get a hold of some hand sanitizer and wipe that off. All right, so now we're going to put these together. And I found the easiest way to do this was to fold this down and then lay this one on top of it when I glue and align the 3 edges, because that's kind of what you're going to feel or see when the card is done, is you're going to see the outside edges and whether they're aligned or not. So this is where the liquid adhesive really did come in kind of handy, because I could pick this up, I could slide it, I can push along the edges here to make sure that it is adhered evenly around the edges. So now we're going to take the next one and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lay it on here and adhere, and I'm going to line it up on the 3 sides. Maybe a little bit. I'm going to get too much because it kind of ends up squooshing out if you get too much. If you're a stamper for any amount of time and you use liquid adhesive, you know that. So again, just kind of feel the edges, line them up top, bottom, and give them a good press. And we have one more to go. And which way do I want this one to go? Let's go this way. Like I said, don't think this paper really matters. I did think this was pretty paper, and it's why I wanted to use it. I'm still debating about the wild wheat from last year's M Colors. It has definitely grown on me, and I do like it. in that it coordinates with so many other colors really well. And this paper was certainly very pretty. So, all right, so now we are on the last side down, and we will have a pinwheel completed. Okay. So here I want to line it up with this other side. And again, I am kind of pressing on the top and the sides to make sure I'm getting it adhered and aligned on all edges. So there is our pinwheel. Okay. And we are going to set that aside because that side of the card for the time being is done. We have just finished this one, and we are going to create our bendable window. Now, for the window, we need a piece that is 5 by 4.5, and we want to score it at each side at 1/2 inch. And we're going to do that again. I'm going to use my Simply Score tool. So I'm going to score here. Because this is designer paper, I'm going to use my fatter end. It's just a little bit less likely to cut through designer paper. So this is 1/2, and because it's 4.5, I want 1/2 here, so it's at 4. I'm not pressing too hard to score this. Because designer series paper, you have to be a little bit careful when you score it, or you can cut it and tear it. So this paper, as I indicated, is directional. You can definitely tell that if I lay it like this, it's upside down. So we want it this way. And we're going to fold these in at our 1/2 inch. Again, take our bone folder, give it a good crease. On both of them. And then we will cut our windows in these cards or in this panel. All right. Now, the nice thing is, because this is designer series paper, we can cut 2 of these at a time. It'll cut just fine with 2. So we're going to take a little bit of tape. I have my favorite old painter's tape that is basically like Post-it tape. As I've mentioned many times, horrible for painting, but works great for this. So we're just going to kind of align this and temporarily fold that in place. Now I am using the Duckled Rectangle dies, which are these here. And I am going for this, for this window, I'm going to use the 4th largest one. And then for the pop-up panel, I will use the next size down. That's what I mentioned when you want to have, so here's the full set. You want to have some layering dies like this so you can pick those that have some variation so you can layer them. And that's what we're going to use for our pop-up. So let's go ahead and cut this, and I have my Stampin' Cut and Emboss here. I think it is just going to fit. And I have these 2 adhered together, so I'm going to lay this on here. Now, with rectangular dies, I like to put them through a bit at an angle as opposed to feeding them through straight. Just makes a little less effort. And I am going to take a piece of my tape and just kind of temporarily, I'm just going to eyeball and center it on here as best I can, just to hold it in place while I run it through the machine. And you can see how I have it turned at a slight angle. It'll just make it a little easier to feed it through. Do I have this equal or does it go a little bit? Maybe it moved on me. It's got to go a little bit to my left. There, that looks pretty good. All right. And see, that goes through really easy if I have it just at that slight angle. We'll get this out of our way. And both of these are cut. Now, if you had cardstock, you might not want to do that. We're going to carefully take this off so we don't damage our designer paper. That's a good thing about this bad painter's tape. And you can save these, use it for another card someday. And I'll get my hair out of the way. And let's go ahead and, again, carefully peel this off so I don't damage my designer paper. It sticks a little bit more once you run it through the machine because it's really been pressed on there. I'm trying to be careful. All right. Get this off the back. One of those you just don't want to hurry because you don't. After doing all that work, you don't want to damage your paper, right? Okay, now we have our windows. And before we adhere it to our pinwheel, we want to take our bone folder and just kind of slightly rub it along the bottom to create a little bit of a curve. That'll help it when it's opening. You don't have to do it a lot. It's just when you open it, you want it round to round. So, and now, which way is up? This way. Again, it probably doesn't really matter because honestly, we aren't seeing that much of it, right? So I'm going to lay this on here. Let me just kind of flatten this, make it a little bit easier on myself. And we'll figure out which side we want to be our front. One's kind of pretty, a little bit more color in it. I'm looking for one that's got some more of the Moody Mauve. So we're going to go with this one for the front, just because it ties in a little more Moody Mauve, I guess. So now I am going to add adhesive, and I'm going to use liquid glue. You can use whatever along this edge here, and we will then position this on the front and center it as best we can. Right side up. And again, I don't know if you would even be able to tell if I had it upside down. So, and I typically just tend to put it on both sides at once. You could do one side at a time if you chose. I might have a little bit much on that one side. So let's bring this back in, and we are going to eyeball this on here, getting it centered as best we can, and just lay flat and press down. If you have to move it around a little bit, you can. You do want it to be flat so that when you mail it, it will lay flat in your envelope, right? Okay, got a little extra glue under there, but you can see now when I bend this, it curves. So let's do the same thing on the other side. And you do have an option here. I will show you where you can put this, you make it like a double window card, which I'm showing you, or you could just do this on one side. And I have one card I made that's what I did, so I will show you that too. Maybe you prefer that. I figured if I showed you twice, sometimes we see things twice, it's easier to remember. Okay, just kind of hold that for a second. And our bendable panels are now complete. This one wants to stick. I think I got a little extra glue on that side. Sorry, I'll wipe it on my pants. There we go. All right, so we now have completed on the tutorial these two sections, okay? And we are now going to go ahead and make our mechanism. And this mechanism is 1 inch by 2.5 inches. And we are going to score it at 1/2 inch on each side. So I'm going to score it at 1/2 and at 2, 1/2 and at 2, so it's 1/2 on each side. And we are now done with all of our cutting and scoring. And honestly, you could cut and score everything at the beginning. I just thought maybe it would be easier if I did it in steps so you can follow along with the tutorial. And we will give these a good burnish. And again, so that this curves, we're just going to take our bone folder and kind of rub that along there to give it a bit of a curve. Kind of like you would if you were curling ribbon. Okay, so we have 2 of those. Now for this, what we want to do is on each side where we have our window, we are going to adhere this in the center. Okay, you're just going to center it within that window and adhere it vertically and horizontally. Now what I used here was some Tear and Tape. Let me get some glue off my hands a little bit here. It is gluey. Liquid glue has its place, but its place is not all over my fingers. All right, so take a piece of Tear and Tape, and we're just going to adhere it on each of these little 1/2 inch panels. For me, I found this was, you could use a liquid adhesive. If you use liquid adhesive here, my hint is just be sure before you start flexing it that it really is dry, because it can come loose. That's a little long. So I'm just going to do one of these is for each side, of course. So I'm just going to do both at the same time. You probably all know how to apply Tear and Tape. I am kind of skewing it towards the fold because that's most important to hold that down. All right. Now let's get this Tear and Tape off from here. And other side. And like I said, we're just going to lay this in the center. I'm going to look where the fold is. I'm going to make it equal on each side of the fold and vertically. At least visually it's equal, and that is close enough. All right, now as we bring it in, you can see how that pops up. as I do that. I bring it closer. It's a little dark down in there to see. There we go. Maybe that's a better way to show it. You can see how that will pop up. So let's do the other side. You never know if they'll take your pick tool is easiest for me, or sometimes this stuff just really wants to battle us, doesn't it? Sometimes fingernails work better, and sometimes the take your pick tool looks better. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. All right. So our mechanism is now complete. So now we want to build our pop-up panel. Set this aside. And I am going to use the next smaller die. And we're going to die cut a panel out of here with that die. So I need my Stampin' Cut and Emboss again. And again, because this is a rectangle, I have found, this is just a hint, it's unrelated to this card, but when you put a rectangle through, if you put the flat edge through first, either this way or this way, it just really increases your effort to turn your Stampin' Cut and Emboss. So just place it at just a bit of an angle, stagger your plates a bit, is always helpful. It just makes it so much easier to run that through. And we need 2 of these. And by the miracle of television, here's our second one. All right. And now's the easy part. Now we're just going to decorate. So I am going to use, I had indicated I'm using the Inspirational Sketches stamp set. This is the one I'm using. The card I showed you was the little bird. I'm going to use the mushrooms here. And I'm just going to stamp it in wild wheat. This will be the quick and easy part, but I want to do this to show you how to then, mainly, the best way to attach it to the mechanism. So stamp this on here. All right. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and do our back panel as well. And I'm just going to keep this very simple. I'm going to put a stamp of sentiment on here. And we will stamp this in Moody Mauve. See if I can get it straight. I'm terrible at getting things straight, especially when I can't see straight over my camera. Close enough. Now it looks a little plain, so let's just take a piece of this and adhere it maybe down here near the bottom. I could have put this on there before I die cut this piece, and that way it would be cut with the same design as the decorative rectangle. But of course I thought about that after I already die cut it. So we're not going to do that. We will just put this down here. I want to get a little bit of that daisy in there. And let's just go ahead and trim this off here on the side. And I can trim around that if I feel so inclined. Or I could just cut it straight. All right, so we have two pop-up panels. This panel, I am going to go ahead. I stamped this. This is from Unbounded Love, I think it's called. I didn't bring that over here with me, or did I? Yeah, Unbounded Love. It's a sentiment stamp set that has tons of sentiments in it. I have to be careful here because we can't have it extend out wider than the window, or it gets caught and it doesn't want to open. So I wanted something small, so I'm just going to use this little hello. I'm going to put a couple dimensionals on there. So just kind of hold that. Probably should have had my small ones here, but since I don't, we will make this one work. The bigger ones. And I'll just lay this on here. I guess, which side do I want? I don't know. Maybe over here. Oh, I'm gonna put it over. All right, now we are going to attach this here. So here is one side or the other, can be the front. We're just going to use this one. And what we want to do is just center this within our opening. Now, what's important to know here is that you only want to adhere it right along the center. You don't want to adhere the full surface. If you adhere the full surface, this is going to have to try to bend, and you just want it to pop straight up. So what I found was easiest for me is you can use any kind of adhesive you like. What worked well for me was I just laid a piece of this tear and tape right over that center. I used the fold along here that you can see is what I centered it over. And we will do that on this side too. You could also lay some glue dots over there. You could run some liquid adhesive, whatever your choice of adhesive is will work just fine. All right, so this was, I said, my back. So now I'm just going to take this, I'm going to center this in the opening. And we will go and do the same on this side. And center this in my opening. And give it a good press. And the nice thing about the tear and tape is, it's dried instantly. Particularly when I'm showing a demonstration here, I didn't want it to come apart if I use liquid adhesive, but liquid adhesive works fine too. So there is our pop-up window card. And you see how that lays flat and then it pops up as you open this. So that's great for display. Here's the back. It still feels like it needs a little bit of something. Doesn't it? I don't know. Maybe some gems. I've got some Moody Mauve ones. Do I like those? I'm going to try. Yeah, I don't know. There's a little bit smaller Moody Mauve in this pack with some little speckles. I don't know. Do I want Moody Mauve? I'm not sure. These are pretty. These are textured dots. They're kind of a metallic one. Let's take a look and see how these look. I kind of like those with the mushrooms, I think. So I'm just going to add a couple of those up here in the corner. Oh, where'd it go? It's probably hidden inside. That'll show up somewhere where I don't see it. Stuck to something, right? My finger. Okay, there we go. And I think I found it because it's sticking somewhere. Oh, okay, so that is our card. Now, the last thing we need is an envelope. Um, the way I typically will do an envelope is I just use liquid adhesive. I kind of lay it over a piece of scrap paper, add a little bit of adhesive along the edge, all the way around my flap. Try to get it close to the edge, because if you don't, the ravages of the post office will pick it up. And then we can just adhere this to that edge. And I normally drop it down just a tiny little bit, because that keeps it from getting caught up here at the top as well. And then we come back, flip it over, and just do a quick trim. And we are almost there, and then I will show you the other two cards that I made. I hope you like this fun fold. I do think it makes a great show statement for somebody special to send it to, if somebody that likes to display their cards. It's beautiful as it stands up, and it stands up so well. So there is today's card. And here are my other two. This card was made with the country flowers. And I've got stuff everywhere here. And I used the country flowers designer series paper, and actually it's called Country Lace and Country Woods. This is Country Woods, and the lace is what I used on the pinwheel portion and on the envelope. And you can see that. Here is the card I wanted to show you. I did not do a window on the back. I just put two pieces of basic white and decorated those. That gives you a little bit more space to write. On the one we made today, we can sign our name here. There's a little place for our message. But if you want a little bit more space, then leave the window off and just put your window on one side. This window was created with the Thoughtful Expressions dies. These are gorgeous dies, and I used this shape here. I kind of wanted to try a round one, but if you want to try circular dies or something in a round shape, you do have to be careful how close you get to the edge of this bendable window. If you get too close, this is going to get way thin, and it's not going to work right. So you have to use that a little bit smaller window, and that limits what you can put in the center, but it certainly is possible. Play with it, use whatever dies you like. My last card is a Christmas card, and here I use the Merriest Trees dies, but I use the Countryside Corners for my windows, which are these somewhat oblong hexagons. And this has the Winter Meadow Designer Series paper. So here is card number 3 with the Merriest Trees, and one more card I can add to my Christmas card stash. We're working on it. It's July. It's time to get rolling on Christmas cards. So those are the card we made today and the two previous ones. And then I also had showed you the other one that I made with inspirational sketches, which was the little bird. He was colored with Stampin' Blends. So there we go. I hope you like that fun fold. I hope you give it a try. I am going to flip me back over here. And I hope it made sense. Sometimes you do something so much yourself that you forget what people really need to understand, because maybe you just take it as, oh, that's too easy, they'll figure that out. So if you have any questions, please email me pat@BellaStampandFlair.com. I'd be more than happy to answer questions. Leave a comment with your questions. That works too, and I will do my best to answer them. So thank you for watching today. I hope you have a great rest of your week. If you enjoyed this video, if you like the fun fold, will you give me a thumbs up? That'd be great. I'd love to have you subscribe, and we will see you next Thursday with something else. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.